Exhausted from the night before, Kathy had reluctantly gotten out of bed and was heading towards the main science building.
I'm probably going to fail this thing,
she said to herself miserably, thinking of how little she had been able to study for her midterms with all that had been going on lately, especially the trouble Adam's new suit was stirring up.
Give yourself more credit.
A man stepped out from the shade of the building she was passing. He walked with a casual stride over to where she stood, concreted to the sidewalk in shock.
Lovely day,
Hrax stated with satisfaction. However, it was unclear as to whether his grin was due to the sunshine or the dumbfounded look on Kathy's face.
I have classes. I know.
Hrax held up a hand as a call for silence.
I'm not looking for a tour of the campus, Kathleen. I just want to talk. It took great pains acquiring your whereabouts.
He smiled dangerously.
I would appreciate a moment of your time.
Unsure what to do, Kathy surveyed the area. Students walked to and from their classrooms with nothing but tests and tomorrow's game on their minds. How she wished to be one of them. A man examining a campus map caught her eye. To everyone else, he would have seemed to be a parent or a visiting professor, but she recognized him instantly. The tailored suit and the perfect posture. He had been in the penthouse the night she had been kidnapped by Hrax, as part of the plan that had been kept from her. She wondered how many more of Hrax's assistants were roaming around. Hrax motioned for her attention.
Since we haven't got much time, shall I begin? What do you want?
Making eye contact gave her the chills, but she didn't want to reveal her apprehension.
I want your help.
He eyed her interestedly, waiting for her reaction to the idea. It was at this point she noticed a bruise under one eye, barely concealed with makeup, a small cut barely healed above the other, and his jaw seemed to tweak. It was obviously very sore. She shook her head as if in disbelief.
I'm not going to help you. Oh, I think you will,
he said, smile never fading.
You see, we have a shared problem.
Kathy looked at him with clear distaste.
What could we possibly have in common?
Hrax held her gaze. His eyes were hypnotizing and terribly fierce, and it terrified her.
I believe he calls himself Shadow now. Not very original, but I'm not judging. What do you know? Everything.
He leaned closer.
I commissioned the creation.
Enjoying her curiosity and the fear she tried to hide, he took a moment for suspense.
Ulfric and I are old friends, you see, and well, he believes in my work.
What work? She said, afraid to know. He chuckled.
All in good time.
He took her by the elbow and pulled her closer in towards the building to add privacy to the conversation.
I asked Ulfric to create an armor for me. Not just any armor, mind you, but an armor that could change to whatever I needed in the blink of an eye. I wanted something I could control at will. Something for any situation. The idea was a suit that could literally connect with the wearer. A sort of symbiosis, if you will.
He paused to let things sink in.
Is it alive?
Kathy asked.
I mean, is the suit a living creature?
His expression showed his excitement. The fact that he relished her inability to walk away from his ploy was no secret.
You're observant,
he said.
But no, the suit is not an entity of its own. It is rather a sort of extra skin. A non-Newtonian fluid machine. At least that was the intended result. That fool rushed in and interrupted the programming, and now instead of obeying the master, it tries taking over.
He spat out the last words.
It's a parasite,
Kathy stated.
Exactly. Smart girl.
He drew uncomfortably close to her.
It attaches to the brainstem and leeches onto the adrenaline it creates for the wearer. It draws off anything, anger, pride, fear, anything that can be used to create a rush, so as to reinforce patterns, if you will. Again, the programming wasn't complete. It was supposed to make the wearer better at everything, especially combat. But what better means and how to get there seems to be beyond the current scope of our ability to tell a machine with programming.
She stepped back.
What happens to the wearer?
An evil gleam lit his face.
In all the previous tests, the suit has sucked the life out of the wearer and left them as only a shell of their former selves, while simultaneously making them love battle so much they become addicted to the very act. Not much of a loss, considering our caliber of lab rats.
A new wave of trepidation washed over Kathy. The suit really was changing Adam, and it was dangerous, even more so than she'd understood.
Why are you telling me this?
Why, indeed. You want to know why I don't just wait it out, don't you? Why I don't sit back and let the suit destroy the thorn in my side and pick it up from the ashes afterwards? He paused. She waited. I've put several years into this project, and all it's gotten me is an enemy beyond my means of control. Sure, I could wait for it to kill him, but by that time half of my plans could be shattered by his ridiculous vigilante rampades. I do want him dead, he explained. But while this suit is attached, I can't touch him. For a moment, Harax's expression turned steely and inhumanely cruel and envious. So, I'm settling. Do you understand? A moment of humiliation crossed his face, which very quickly turned to rage.
He won't take it off. Oh, I imagine not. None of the test subjects would. They became heavily addicted, and thus also delusional, paranoid, convinced that without the suit they were nothing, and that I wanted it for myself. I suppose they weren't completely wrong in all those respects, but you're right. He won't willingly remove it. I thought you said the subjects were rats. I never said all of them were. A moment of silence passed between them as Harax's reptilian smile grew a little at Kathy's speechlessness. So what can I do? That's why I'm here. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small wooden box. You just need to give him this. He handed her the box, and the rising concern for her partner outweighing her fear, she took it. Harax watched intently as she lifted the lid. Inside was a vial of bright green liquid and an accompanying syringe. What is this? She said, closing the box and handing it back. Just a little something to break the bond. It will dissolve the suit's connection. Will it hurt him? Of course it will. But unfortunately, it won't be fatal or permanent. He pushed the box back into her hands. It was designed for me, after all. She wasn't convinced. Any side effects? She asked skeptically. An odd look swept over her enemy's face. I hope someday you will come to trust me. But until then, let's be realistic. You are going to take this because you're not doing this for me. You're doing it for him. What if I don't?
You will. He stared her down as if trying to read her deepest secrets. You will because deep down you know it's your only option. You see, the suit's response to combat is to dump adrenaline and testosterone into the system of the wearer in such a specific mixture that it rewards battle. And the ultimate reward high is when you finish the fight. He gave her a very knowing look.
Killing?
Exactly. It was supposed to combat the crippling remorse every person feels when they take a life, and the hesitation that brings to a fight. But at this level of programming, it eventually just creates savage serial murders. Kathy stepped back, her face aghast. Stop him, Kathy, or your beloved Blue Shadow will start killing criminals on purpose. And if none are around, he will find someone else who fits the bill. And when they are gone, anyone else he can get his hands on. She stared into space, worried, as her worst imagination went wild. Anyone and everyone. The clock on the library chimed, interrupting any statement Kathy might have made. Rex looked at his watch. Better hurry on to class. We'll be seeing more of each other.
Not too much, I hope.
Kathy thought, as she stood in place and watched him saunter over to his well-dressed associate. She carefully placed the delicate package into her book bag and took her time getting to her classroom, wanting to be sure no one else was sneaking about the grounds. Night Shadow had to be told of this. Sir, inquired the tailored man, I don't wish to intrude, but why have you taken such an interest in that girl? Rex turned his gaze to his assistant and studied him for a moment. She and I have a history, Charles. The funny thing is, I don't believe she has any idea. He turned back to watch Kathy until she rounded a corner and disappeared from view. What sort of history, sir? Charles asked, and waited patiently for his employer to respond. Rex allowed a thoughtful sigh to escape his lips before he spoke. It was a long time ago. I'd say 14 years. Back when I abandoned the notion of heroics, having realized the power I wanted would be gained so easily by fear. It was mayhem's big about, and I had the city at my feet. A nostalgic grin crossed his face. There must have been 30 people, all of them pathetic, cowering before me, afraid to stay, yet terrified to leave. I can still see their faces. And the girl, sir? You remember the papers, don't you? Brother teenager takes bullet for sister. Charles nodded silently. My man at the time didn't take to the idea of someone ending up dead. He said it wasn't what he'd signed up for. He shot me, right in the leg. Said the police would have a medic when they arrived. Rex's expression darkened along with his voice. Even with a wound, it was hardly difficult to expose such a maggot. I left the police scratching their heads easily enough, too. Although the limited mobility allowed Night Shadow to get the better of me. He spat out the name like it was rotten in his mouth. I'm afraid that I do not quite understand, sir, Charles stated. Well, allow me to spell it out for you, Charles. Once upon a time, a little girl stood up to me, and because of her, I was betrayed by my right-hand man, and thrown down from the pedestal by a second-rate hero. It took me years to get back where I was before, years to build my empire when it should have taken weeks. He took an exasperated breath.
Now that little girl is all grown up, and she's standing in my way again.
Charles studied his employer. If she is disrupting her picture, sir, why not simply remove her from it? Deep reflection passed through Horax's dual-colored eyes.
Because she is the martyr I cannot risk. And though that relic Night Shadow is no match for me, his protege could prove dangerous.
He is a small threat, a nuisance.
He is unpredictable. Even without that suit, if he continues to progress, I fear I could someday be matched. It is a small fear, but a fear nevertheless.
His voice grew low and distant.
He must be destroyed.
How do you plan to do it, sir?
That all depends on Miss Maple. She has acquired powerful friends, and it seems the only way to win is to add myself to the list. If I can gain her trust, turn her over to my side, she will not only cease to be a threat, but I will gain the ability to knock down obstacles from the inside.
Horax smiled to himself.
If my enemies destroyed each other, wouldn't that be something?
Yes, I believe it would. Horax eyed his assistant tentatively. A realization washed over him. The realization that he had divulged his greatest weakness, his fear. A brief silence passed between them.
You're a loyal colleague, Charles,
Horax said as a car with tinted windows pulled up beside them.
One of the best. You've played my game well, following every instruction to the letter. You know that no one can find out that I have even the smallest of fears.
I understand completely, sir. You have my word. I will not tell a soul. He tensed as Horax placed his arm around his shoulders. It was unlike his employer to show affection.
I know you won't. You are my best man, Charles,
Horax said as he calmly and elegantly sunk his hidden dagger through the finely sewn stitches of Charles' suit and held him as he died.
I shall truly miss you.